Continuation of Pollyanna. Chapter 24. John Pendleton. Pollyanna did not go to school tomorrow, nor the day after tomorrow. Pollyanna, however, did not realize this, except momentarily when a brief period of full consciousness sent insistent questions to her lips. Pollyanna did not realize anything, in fact, very clearly until a week had passed. And then the fever subsided, the pain lessened somewhat, and her mind awoke to full consciousness. She had then to be told all over again what had occurred. "And so it's hurt that I am, and not sick," she sighed at last. "I'm glad of that." "Glad, Pollyanna?" asked her aunt, who was sitting by the bed. "Yes. I'd so much rather have broken legs like Mr. Pendleton than lifelong invalid like Mrs. Snow, you know. Broken legs get well, and lifelong invalids don't." Miss Polly, who had said nothing whatever about broken legs, got suddenly to her feet and walked to the little dressing table across the room. She was picking up one object after another now, and putting each down, in an aimless fashion quite unlike her usual decisiveness. Her face was not aimless looking at all, however. It was white and drawn. On the bed Pollyanna lay blinking at the dancing band of colors on the ceiling, which came from one of the prisms in the window. "I'm glad it isn't smallpox that ails me, too," she murmured contentedly. "That would be worse than freckles, and I'm glad 'tisn't whooping cough. I've had that, and it's horrid. And I'm glad 'tisn't appendicitis nor measles, 'cause they're catching measles are, I mean, and they wouldn't let you stay here. You seem to be glad for a good many things, my dear," faltered Aunt Polly, putting her hand to her throat as if her collar bound. Pollyanna laughed softly. "I am. I've been thinking of 'em, lots of 'em. All the time I've been looking up at that rainbow. I love rainbows. I'm so glad Mr. Pendleton gave me those prisms. I'm glad of some things I haven't said yet. I don't know, but I'm most glad I was hurt." "Pollyanna!" Pollyanna laughed softly again. She turned luminous eyes to her aunt. "Well, you see, since I've been hurt, you've called me dear lots of times. And you didn't before. I love to be called dear. By folks that belong to you, I mean. Some of the Ladies' Aiders did call me that, and of course that was pretty nice, but not so much as if they had belonged to me like you do." "Oh, Aunt Polly, I'm so glad you belong to me." Aunt Polly did not answer. Her hand was at her throat again. Her eyes were full of tears. She had turned away and was hurrying from the room, through the door by which the nurse had just entered. It was that afternoon that Nancy ran out to old Tom, who was cleaning harnesses in the barn. Her eyes were wild. Mr. Tom, guess what happened?" she panted. "You couldn't guess in 1,000 years. You couldn't." "Then I won't try," retorted the man grimly, "especially as I ain't got more'n 10 ter live. Anyhow, probably you'd better tell me first off, Nancy." "Well, listen then. Who do you suppose is in the parlor now with the mistress? Who do I say?" Old Tom shook his head. "There's no tellin'," he declared. "Yes, there is. I'm tellin' you it's John Pendleton." "Sho now, you're jokin', girl." "Not much I am. And me a-lettin' him and myself, crutches and all. And the team he comes in a-waitin' this minute at the door for him, just as if he were the cranky old crosspatch he is, what never talks ter no one. Just think, Mr. Tom, him a-callin' on her." "Well, why not?" demanded the old man a little aggressively. Nancy gave him a scornful glance. "As if you didn't know better'n me," she derided. "Huh? Oh, you needn't be so innocent," she retorted with mock indignation. "You what led me wild goose chasing in the first place." "What do you mean?" Nancy glanced through the open-door barn toward the house and came a step nearer to the old man. Listen, 'twas you that was tellin' me Miss Polly had a beau in the first place, wasn't it? Well, one day I thinks I finds 2 and 2, and I puts 'em together and makes 4, but it turns out to be 5. No, and 4 at all. With a gesture of indifference, old Tom turned and fell to work. If you go on talkin' to me, you've got to talk plain horse sense, he declared testily. I never was no hand for figurin'. Nancy laughed. Well, 'tis this, she explained. I heard something that made me think 'twas him and Miss Polly was beaus. Mr. Pendleton? Old Tom straightened up. Yes. Oh, I know now he wasn't. It was that blessed child's mother it was who were beaus with, and that's why he wanted. But never mind that part, she added hastily. Remember just in time her promise to Pollyanna not to tell that Mr. Pendleton had wished her to come and live with him. Well, I've been asking folks about him some since, and I've found out that him and Miss Polly ha'n't been friends for years, and that she's been hatin' him like pison, owin' to that silly gossip that coupled their names together when she was 18 or 20. Yes, I remember, nodded old Tom. It was 3 or 4 years after Miss Jenny give him the mitten and went off with the other chap. Miss Polly knew about it, of course, and was sorry for him. So she tried to be nice to him. Maybe she overdid it a little. She hated that minister chap who had taken off with her sister. And any rate, somebody began to talk and make trouble. They said she was running after him. Running after any man, her, interjected Nancy. I know it, but they did, declared old Tom. And of course no gal of any spunk'll stand that. And about that time came a man she really did care for, and that she shut up like an oyster, and wouldn't have nothing to do with anybody for a spell. Her heart just seemed to turn bitter at the core. Yes, I know, I've heard about that now, retorted Nancy, and that's why you could knocked me down with a feather when I see him at the door. Him, what she hadn't spoke to for years. But I let him in and went and told her. What did she say? Old Tom held his breath. Nothing at first. She was so still I thought she hadn't heard, and I was just going to say it over when she spoke up, kind of quiet. Tell Mr. Pendleton I will be down at once. And I come and told him, and then I came out here and told you, finished Nancy, casting another backward glance towards the house. Humph, grunted the old man, and fell to work again. In the ceremonious parlor of the Harrington homestead, Mr. John Pendleton did not have to wait before a swift step warned him of Miss Polly's coming. As he attempted to rise, she made a gesture of remonstrance. She did not offer her hand, however, and her face was coldly reserved. I called to ask for Pollyanna, he began at once, in a little brusque manner. Thank you. She is about the same, said Miss Polly. And that is, won't you tell me how she is? His voice was not quite steady this time. A quick spasm of pain crossed the woman's face. I can't. I wish I could. You mean you don't know? Yes. But the doctor? Dr. Warren himself seems at sea. He is in correspondence with a New York specialist. They have arranged for a consultation at once. But where are her injuries, do you know? A slight cut on the head, 1 or 2 bruises, and an injury to the spine which had seemed to cause a paralysis from the hips down. A low cry came from the man. There was a brief silence, and then huskily he said, And Pollyanna, how does she take it? She doesn't understand at all how things really are, and I can't tell her. She must know something. Miss Polly lifted her head to the collar at her throat in a gesture that had become so common to her of late. Oh, yes, she knows she can't move, but she thinks her legs are broken. She says she'd be glad if it were broken legs like yours rather than lifelong invalids like Mrs. Snow's, because broken legs get well and the other doesn't. She talks like that all the time until it seems as if I should die. Through the blur of tears in her own eyes, the man saw the drawn face opposite twisted with emotion. Involuntarily his thoughts went back to Pollyanna had said when he had made his final plea for her presence. Oh, I couldn't leave Aunt Polly now. It was this thought that made him ask very gently, as soon as he could control his voice, I wonder if you know, Miss Harrington, how hard I tried to get Pollyanna to come and live with me. With you? Pollyanna? The man winced a little at the tone of her voice, but his own voice was still impersonally cool when he spoke again. Yes, I wanted to adopt her legally. You understand, making her my heir, of course. The woman in the opposite chair relaxed a little. It came to her suddenly what a brilliant future it would have meant for Pollyanna, this adoption, and she wondered if Pollyanna were old enough and mercenary enough to be tempted by this man's money and position. I'm very fond of Pollyanna, the man was continuing. I am fond of her both for her own sake and for her mother's. I stood ready to give Pollyanna the love that had been 25 years in storage. Love. Miss Polly remembered suddenly why she had taken this child in the first place, and with the recollection came the remembrance of Pollyanna's own words uttered that very morning. A love to be called dear by folks that belong to you, and it was this love-hungry little girl that had been offered the stored-up affection of 25 years, and she was old enough to be tempted by love. With a sinking heart, Miss Polly realized that. With a sinking heart, too, she realized something else, the dreariness of her own future now without Pollyanna. Well, she said, and the man recognized the self-control that vibrated through the harshness of the tone, smiled sadly. She would not come, he answered. Why? She would not leave you. She said you had been so good to her. She wanted to stay with you, and she said she thought you wanted her to stay, he finished, and as he pulled himself to his feet. He did not look towards Miss Polly. He turned his face resolutely towards the door, but insistently he heard a swift step at his side, and found a shaking hand thrust towards him. When the specialist comes and I know anything definite about Pollyanna, I will let you hear from me, said a trembling voice. Goodbye, and thank you for coming. Pollyanna will be so pleased. Chapter 25, A Waiting Game. On the day after John Pendleton's call at the Harrington homestead, Miss Polly set herself to the task of preparing Pollyanna for the visit of the specialist. Pollyanna, my dear, she began gently, we have decided that we want another doctor besides Dr. Warren to see you. Another one might tell us something new to do, to help you get well faster, you know. A joyous light came to Pollyanna's face. Dr. Chilton? Oh, Aunt Polly, I'd so love to have Dr. Chilton. I've wanted him all the time, but I was afraid you didn't, on account of his seeing you in the sun parlor that day. You know, so I didn't like to say anything, but I'm so glad you do want him. Aunt Polly's face had turned white, and then red, and then back to white again. But when she answered, she showed very plainly that she was trying to speak lightly and cheerfully. Oh, my dear, it wasn't Dr. Chilton at all that I meant. It is a new doctor, a very famous doctor from New York, who knows a great deal about hurts like yours. Pollyanna's face fell. I don't believe he knows half so much as Dr. Chilton. Oh, yes, he does, I'm sure, dear. But it was Dr. Chilton who doctored Mr. Pendleton's broken leg, Aunt Polly. If If you don't mind very much, I would like to have Dr. Chilton. Truly I would." A distressed color suffused Miss Polly's face. For a moment she did not speak at all, and then she said gently, though yet with a touch of her old stern decisiveness, "But I do mind, Pollyanna. I mind very much, and I would do everything, almost anything, for you, my dear. But for reasons which I do not care to speak of now, I do not wish Dr. Chilton called in on this case. And believe me, he cannot know so much about your trouble as this great doctor does, who will come from New York tomorrow." Pollyanna still looked unconvinced. "But, Aunt Polly, if you loved Dr. Chilton—" "What, Pollyanna?" Pollyanna's voice was very sharp now. Her cheeks were very red, too. "I say, if you loved Dr. Chilton, and didn't love the other one," sighed Pollyanna, "seems to me you would make some difference in the good he would do, and I love Dr. Chilton." The nurse entered the room at that moment, and Aunt Polly rose to her feet abruptly, a look of relief on her face. "I am very sorry, Pollyanna," she said, a little stiffly, "but I am afraid you'll have to let me be the judge this time. Besides, it's already arranged. The New York doctor is coming tomorrow." As it happened, however, the New York doctor did not come tomorrow. At the last moment, a telegram told of an unavoidable delay owing to the sudden illness of the specialist himself. This led Pollyanna into a renewed pleading for the substitution of Dr. Chilton, which would be so easy now, you know. But as before, Aunt Polly shook her head and said, "No, dear," very decisively, yet with a still more anxious assurance that she would do anything but that, to please her dear Pollyanna. As the days passed, one by one, it did indeed seem that Aunt Polly was doing everything but that she could do to please her niece. "I wouldn't believed it. You couldn't made me believe it," Nancy said to old Tom one morning. "There don't seem to be a minute in the day that Miss Polly ain't just beggin' round waitin' to do something for the blessed lamb. If 'tain't more than to let the cat in, her wouldn't let Fluff nor Buff upstairs for love nor money a week ago, and now she lets 'em tumble all over the bed just 'cause it pleases Miss Pollyanna. And when she ain't doin' nothin' else, she's movin' them little glass danglers round to different wanders in the room so the sun'll come make the rainbows dance, as that blessed child calls it. She sent Timothy down to Cobb's greenhouse 3 times for fresh flowers, and that besides all the posies fetched to her, too. And the other day, if I didn't find her sittin' for the bed, with the nurse actually doin' her hair, and Miss Pollyanna lookin' on, bossin' from the bed, her eyes all shinin' and happy, and I declare to goodness if Miss Polly hasn't wore her hair like that every day now, just to please that blessed child." Old Tom chuckled. "Well, it strikes me Miss Polly herself ain't lookin' none the worse for wearin' them curls round her forehead," he observed dryly. "'Cause she ain't," retorted Nancy indignantly. "She looks like folks now. She's actually almost—" "Careful now, Nancy," interrupted the old man with a slow grin. "You know what you said when I told you she was handsome once." Nancy shrugged her shoulders. "Oh, she ain't handsome, of course, but I will own up she don't look like the same woman, what with the ribbons and lace jiggers Miss Pollyanna makes her wear round her neck." "I told you so," nodded the man. "I told you she wasn't old." Nancy laughed. "Well, I'll own up she hadn't got quite so good an imitation of it as she did have, for Miss Pollyanna came. "Say, Mr. Tom, who was this beau o' hers? I hadn't found that out yet. I han't. "Han't yet?" asked the old man, with an odd look in his face. "Well, I guess you won't then, from me." "Oh, Mr. Tom, come on now," wheedled the girl. "You see, there ain't many folks here that I can ask." "Maybe not, but there's one, however, that ain't answerin'," grinned old Tom. Then abruptly the light died from his eyes. "How is she today, the little gal?" Nancy shook her head. Her face, too, had sobered. "Just the same, Mr. Tom. There ain't no special difference as I can see. Or anybody, I guess. She just lays there and sleeps and talks some and tries to smile and be glad 'cause the sun sets or the moon rises or some other such thing, till it's enough to make your heart break with achin'." "I know. It's the game. Bless her sweet heart," nodded old Tom, blinking a little. "She told you, then, about that game?" "Oh, yes, she told me long ago." The old man hesitated and then went on, his lips twitching a little. "I was growlin' one day 'cause I was so bent up and crooked, and what do you suppose the little thing said? I couldn't guess. I wouldn't think she could find anything about that to be glad about. She did. She said I could be glad anyhow, that I didn't have to stoop so far to do my weedin', 'cause I was already bent part way over." Nancy gave me a wistful laugh. "Well, I ain't surprised after all. You might know she'd find something. We've been playin' it that game since almost the first, 'cause there wasn't no one else she could play with, and she did speak of her aunt." "Miss Polly?" Nancy chuckled. "I guess you hain't got such an awful different opinion of the mistress than I have," she said. Old Tom stiffened. "I was only thinkin' 'twould be some of the surprise to her," he explained with dignity. "Well, yes, I guess would be then," retorted Nancy. "I ain't sayin' what would be now. I'd believe anything o' the mistress now, even that she'd take to playin' it herself. But hain't that little girl told her yet?" "She'd told every one else, I guess. I'm hearin' it everywhere now since she was hurt," said Tom. "Well, she didn't tell Miss Polly," rejoined Nancy. "Miss Polly told me long ago that she couldn't tell her 'cause her aunt didn't tell her, have her talk about her father, and 'twas her father's game, and she'd have to talk about him if she did tell her. So she never told her." "Oh, I see, I see." The old man nodded his head slowly. "There was always bitter against the minister's chap, all of 'em, 'cause he took Miss Jinny, anyway, from 'em. And Miss Polly, young as she was, couldn't never forgive him. She was that fond of Miss Jinny in them days. I see, I see. 'Twas a bad mess." He sighed as he turned away. "Yes, 'twas all round," sighed Nancy in her turn, as she went back to her kitchen. For no one were those days of waitin' easy. The nurse tried to look cheerful, but her eyes were troubled. The doctor was openly nervous and impatient. Miss Polly said little, but even the softening waves of her hair about her face and the becoming lace at her throat could not hide the fact that she was growing thin and pale. As to Pollyanna, Pollyanna petted the dog, smoothed the cat's sleek head, and admired the flowers and ate the fruits and jellies that were sent to her, and returned innumerable cheery answers to the many messages of love and inquiry that were brought to her bedside. But she too grew pale and thin, and the nervous activities of the poor little hands and arms only emphasized a pitiful motionlessness of the once active little feet and legs, now laying so woeful quiet under the blankets. As to the game, Pollyanna told Nancy these days how glad she was going to be when she could go to school again, go to see Mrs. Snow, go to call on Mr. Pendleton, go to ride with Dr. Chilton. Nor did she seem to realize that all this gladness was in the future, not the present. Nancy, however, did realize it and cry about it when she was alone. And we will continue this story next Wednesday. And thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads.